Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak to such an esteemed audience. And that I have a challenging task now, because it's very difficult to speak at the end of an event, because most of the most important issues have been covered, but on the other hand, it's less of a challenge because you have listened to all the presentations and to all the speeches, and you can summarize them and maybe propose some recommendations based on what you have heard. So here I would like to cover 4 or 5 topics that, in my opinion, are of relevance for us. Let me start with the most important topic. It's even mentioned in the name of our event: centralized or decentralized model of PES. In my opinion, considering all the previous presentations yesterday and today, in my opinion, we already know the 2 classic models, the classic centralized, decentralized, but there is a third model, centralized with certain elements of decentralization, and the fourth one is the decentralized model with some elements of centralization. Because in the modern situation, it's not quite advisable and it's not quite feasible, really, to implement a sterile, pure centralized or decentralized model. And the next question naturally is which of the 2 or of the 4 we should opt for. The main criterion is the local situation. The characteristic features of the national economy, of the labor market, of the social and economic situation in the country. And I can give another example from the Russian Federation, which has already been mentioned both yesterday and today, because it's indeed a very important one. I mean that Russia is a huge country in terms of territory, and one and the same moment there may be a job opening in one region, and in another region there may be job seekers, but there may be no job openings for those job seekers. I could give you some figures supporting this statement, but the situation is there, and it's quite typical for us. Hence, despite the fact that the Russian Federation has moved to the decentralized model 2 years ago, we still face those challenges and quite complex issues, and some of those issues require a centralized approach. Another topic I would like to cover is the organization of public employment services and the efficiency. In my opinion, the efficiency of PES in the Russian context could be achieved by expanding the scope of functions and authority of the public employment service, like in the classic relation of cost to results, input to output, we can enhance the output if the PAS would deal more with the would focus more on the ILO mechanism. That's the total unemployment rather than the registered unemployed. And the two are very much different because now in Russia the registered unemployed amount to 1 million people, and the total unemployment according to ILO methodology is more than 4 million people. So the mere movement from the registered unemployment to total unemployment and such a shift of a focus would expand our opportunities and enhance the efficiency of the public employment services in Russia. Indeed, dear colleagues, the registered unemployment, when a person has lost a job, comes to a PES office, has registered with them, and they start looking for a job for him. They can't find this job for him, and he becomes an officially unemployed person. Such people account for smaller parts of the unemployed because the majority of unemployed are trying to find employment themselves using internet, using their professional and social networks, and so on. So there is a certain room for seriously improving the efficiency of Russian PES. And the focus could also be expanded to concealed and other types of unemployment as well. Today is the second day of another event, by the way, an international conference on unstable employment, also hosted here in Moscow. And this is indeed a relevant problem for many labor markets, and this is something we should take into account. The concealed unemployment is one of the types of unstable, unsustainable employment. Economically, it's based on the difference between the reduction of industrial production and industrial enterprises and the number of people employed. For example, they reduce the industrial output by 50% and they have to lay off 5% of their staff. And this brings many negative consequences like reduced shifts, reducing the wages, salaries, and people just can't find employment in such a situation. Just to give you one example, let's talk about engineers. Today, engineering profession in Russia is one of the most highly demanded by the employers in the labor market. In the 20th century, in 1990s, there was a certain drop in this sector of the labor market because the economy was in the downturn, and the Russian economy just didn't need so many engineers. So the aircraft designers, mechanical engineers had to change their occupation. They started working as taxi drivers, security officers, even janitors. And today, when the economy suddenly needs many engineers again, it's very difficult to solve this problem, really, to satisfy the demand. Of course, we could go through the universities, but here the waiting time is at least 5 or 6 years. And there are also other ways, but all of them have a certain time lag embedded in them. And basically, change of occupation is also a form of concealed unemployment because the economy doesn't make the maximum use of its potential labor capacity. So, according to some estimates, now the concealed unemployment in Russia accounts for about 4 or 5 million people. That's almost as much as the total unemployment, according to ILO's methodology. Well, we could discuss the figures here, but the trend is there, and we have to deal with that. So these are basically the key points of unemployment situation in Russia now. And if we expand the focus of the Russian PES onto these areas, we could significantly enhance its efficiency. In the last thing, employment is the key priority for the public employment services. But employment depends not only on the professionalism of the PS workers, not only on their talents. It also depends on a huge number of external factors like the currency, inflation. It also depends on the salary level. The and indeed the salary remuneration does and its level, average level in the country, does influence the employment rate. So if there are problems with the remuneration in the market, no matter how active or proactive the PES are, the results would be still far from the desired ones. So I have listed just a few of the problems here in this slide, and this list can be continued. Really, there are many other problems related to employment and the efficiency of the public employment services. And like, for example, such a problem is the low reproduction rates, and the minimum wage is below the living standards. So it's very difficult to speak about the efficient labor markets and efficient labor market dynamics. And now the remuneration differentiation in the Russian labor market, according to the Russian Statistic Agency, is 1 to 30. Well, of course, if one person is 30 times as talented as another person, he may deserve 30 times higher salary. But in our market, this differentiation is not due to the is not due to the work results, it's due to three factors. First of all, the type of legal registration, because different enterprises and with different legal status give different remuneration for one and the same kind of labor. A second factor is the industry this enterprise is in. Again, if it's a hospital, just compare a hospital or a bakery and diamond mine or an oil and gas company. And the third factor is the location. Well, recently we started to deal and to minimize the regional factor here, but again we have a lot of differentiation between Moscow and Ryazan or the Siberia, for example. In conclusion of my speech, I want to reiterate that there are very good prospects for enhancing the efficiency of the Russian public employment service. I wish you all efficient work. Thank you.